My fiancée wanted me to sign a contract to give her son a part of her property because she doesn't trust me. So I left her at the altar and left. I was at the altar, ready to get married. My fiancée was standing in front of me. The guests were watching, but I turned around and walked away. She called my name. People whispered. I did not stop. I would not marry a woman who wanted me to sign away my property to her son. I met Lisa 3 years ago. She was a single mother with a 6-year-old son, Jake. We met through mutual friends at a small gathering. She was smart and kind, and we got along well. I did not mind that she had a child. We started dating, and over time, our relationship grew stronger. Jake was shy at first, but I made an effort to bond with him. I took him to the park, helped him with homework, and played games with him. Over time, he warmed up to me. Lisa appreciated my involvement in Jake's life, and everything seemed perfect. After 2 years, I proposed. Lisa said yes. I thought we were building a future together as a family. But after the engagement, things started to change. After the proposal, Lisa started acting differently. At first, it was small things. She brought up Jake's future more often. She talked about how she wanted him to have security and a stable life. I agreed with her. I cared about Jake, and I had no problem helping out when needed. But as the wedding got closer, the way she talked about Jake changed. She no longer spoke about raising him together. Instead, she focused on what he would get in the future. She made comments about how everything I had should include Jake. She said he deserved the same treatment as a biological son, that I was financially secure. I owned a home, had a good job, and had savings. Lisa had no reason to worry about Jake's well-being. If something ever happened, I would have helped him. But Lisa was not just talking about support in an emergency. She started pushing for something more permanent. One evening, Lisa sat me down with a serious expression. She placed a folder in front of me and told me it was something we needed to discuss before the wedding. I opened it and saw a legal contract. At first, I thought it was a prenuptial agreement, which I would have understood. But when I read it, I realized it was something else entirely. The contract stated that upon marriage, I would legally allocate a portion of my property to Jake. It also included a clause that, in the event of my death, all my assets would be transferred to him. Lisa explained that since I was financially secure, I should not hesitate to ensure Jake's future. She said it was not fair for him to grow up uncertain about his inheritance when I had the means to provide for him. I was shocked. I told Lisa that I was already planning to support Jake, but this contract was unnecessary. I asked her why she needed something legally binding when I had never refused to help him. Her response made me uneasy. She said she could not trust me to do the right thing if anything happened to her. She said she needed legal proof that Jake would be protected. I did not understand why she suddenly doubted me. For years, I had treated Jake well. I had spent time with him, taken care of him, and made sure he had everything he needed. Now, it felt like Lisa saw me as nothing more than financial security for her son. I refused to sign the contract. I told her it was unnecessary and unfair to force me into something like this. Lisa's face changed immediately. She went from calm to furious in seconds. She called me selfish and accused me of not caring about Jake. She said if I truly loved them, I would sign without hesitation. I realized then that this was not just about Jake's future. Lisa was trying to secure something for herself. Her anger and accusations made that clear. This was not a simple request. It was a demand. And she was making it clear that if I did not agree, the wedding might not happen. Lisa's reaction confirmed everything I had been feeling. She was not asking for reassurance. She was giving me an ultimatum. Either I signed the contract, or she would not marry me. I told her I would not sign anything under pressure. She responded by calling me greedy and accusing me of treating Jake like an outsider. She said I was proving that I never saw him as my own son. Her words stung, but I stayed firm. I told her that love and commitment could not be forced through a legal document. She stormed out of the room. After that night, things between us became tense. Lisa stopped acting like a fiancée and started treating me like an opponent. She would bring up the contract at random moments, always in a bitter tone. She started making snide comments about how some men took responsibility while others only pretended to care. Over the next few weeks, the pressure increased. She involved her family, who started reaching out to me, telling me that signing was the right thing to do. Her mother called me, saying that Lisa was only looking out for her child and that any real man would step up for his future stepson. Her sister sent me a long message about how Jake had already bonded with me and how devastating it would be for him if I refused to make things official. It was clear now that Lisa had been planning this for a long time. She was using emotional manipulation to get what she wanted. If I had signed the contract that night, she would have acted like nothing was wrong. But my refusal had exposed something ugly in her. She did not love me unconditionally. She loved the security I could provide. I realized that I could not go through with the wedding, but I needed to be smart about how I handled it. If I broke things off immediately, she would try to turn everyone against me. She would make me look like the villain who abandoned her and her son. So I decided to wait. I pretended to consider her request, acting like I needed time to think. Then, a few days before the wedding, I made my move. It was the Tuesday before the wedding. Lisa still believed she had won. She assumed I would give in and sign the contract before the ceremony. She had stopped arguing with me about it and acted like everything was normal. She was laughing with her friends, finalizing wedding details, and posting online about how excited she was to start her new life. She had no idea that I had already made my decision. I spent the day going through everything in my head. I thought about how Lisa had changed after the engagement, how she had slowly shifted from being my partner to treating me like a financial plan for her son. I remembered every time she tried to guilt me, every conversation where she painted me as selfish for not wanting to hand over my property. I thought about Jake and how I had been nothing but good to him, yet his mother still did not trust me enough to let things happen naturally. She did not want a husband, she wanted security, and I was just a means to that end. I packed my things. I did not want to wake up in the same place the next morning, where Lisa could corner me into another exhausting argument. I needed to be gone before she realized what was happening. Then, I called my closest friends and told them to meet me at a bar. When I arrived, I sat them down and explained everything. I told them about the contract, Lisa's threats, and how she had made it clear that she valued my money more than our relationship. They were stunned. Some of them had met Lisa and never suspected she was capable of something like this. Others admitted they had always felt like something was off about her but did not want to interfere. As the night went on, I felt lighter. I laughed for the first time in weeks. I realized just how much stress I had been under, how much of myself I had lost trying to navigate a situation that should have never existed in the first place. Lisa had made me feel like I was doing something wrong by refusing to sign over my assets, but the more I talked, the clearer it became she was the one in the wrong. At one point, one of my friends raised his glass and said, "To dodging a bullet." Everyone clinked their glasses and cheered. I did not say anything, but in my head, I agreed. Lisa had thought she had me trapped, but I had made my choice. I was not going to be manipulated into a life I did not want. That night, I went to sleep in a different place, knowing that I was not going to walk down the aisle. I had made peace with it. The wedding was over, and so was my relationship with Lisa. The morning of the wedding, I woke up feeling clear-headed. I had no doubts, no second thoughts. I had made the right decision. Lisa had shown me who she really was, and I refused to tie my life to someone who saw me as nothing more than a financial provider for her son. I turned on my phone and saw dozens of missed calls and messages from Lisa, her family, and a few mutual friends. She was probably expecting me to come early to finalize last-minute details. I ignored them. There was nothing left to say. Then, I got a text from one of Lisa's bridesmaids. "Lisa is freaking out. Where are you?" I didn't answer. Instead, I took my bag, left the hotel where I had spent the night, and drove out of town for the day. I did not want to deal with the drama. I could only imagine Lisa standing there, dressed for a wedding that was not going to happen, realizing that I was gone. I knew she would be angry. I knew her family would be furious. They would try to paint me as the bad guy. They would say I humiliated her, that I abandoned her at the altar. But I did not care. I had given Lisa every chance to be honest with me, to love me for who I was rather than what I could provide. Instead, she tried to manipulate me into securing her son's future at my expense. I spent the afternoon with a few close friends, enjoying the freedom of knowing I had escaped a marriage that would have been built on lies and manipulation. They asked if I regretted not telling Lisa in person, but I did not. She had already made it clear that she did not respect my choices. If I had confronted her before leaving, she would have tried to guilt me, to argue, to cry and make me seem like the villain. I was done playing her game. By the evening, I finally turned my phone back on. The messages had doubled. Lisa had gone from confused to furious. She called me a coward, a liar, and a heartless man who never loved her, or Jake. Her family demanded that I explain myself. Some of her friends sent me long messages about how I had destroyed her and how I should have been a real man and stepped up for her son. I did not respond to any of them. Lisa had made her choice when she tried to force me into signing the contract. I had made mine when I walked away. By the next day, the fallout had fully begun. Lisa's family and friends flooded social media with posts about how I had abandoned her at the altar. They painted me as a selfish man who left a single mother heartbroken on the most important day of her life. Some of them messaged me directly, demanding an explanation. Others insulted me, calling me a manipulative liar who played with Lisa's feelings. Lisa herself had sent me one final message late at night. It was long and filled with anger. She said she had trusted me, that she had let me into her and Jake's life, and I had repaid her by humiliating her in front of everyone. She accused me of wasting her time, of pretending to love her and her son when all I cared about was money. She called me a coward for not facing her, for not at least telling her in person that I was leaving. I did not answer. I knew anything I said would be twisted against me. If I explained why I left, she would act like I had misunderstood her. If I reminded her that she had threatened to call off the wedding herself when I refused to sign the contract, she would say I was exaggerating. Lisa wanted control, and I had taken it away from her by walking out before she could decide how things would go. Over the next few days, I blocked her number and most of her family and friends. There was no point in arguing with people who had already decided I was the villain. A few mutual friends reached out, asking for my side of the story. When I told them about the contract, some were shocked. Others admitted they had suspected Lisa had ulterior motives but did not want to interfere. I focused on moving forward. I spent time with my friends, threw myself into work, and enjoyed the fact that I had dodged a disaster. Every now and then, I wondered how Lisa was handling everything, but I pushed the thoughts away. She had made it clear that she wanted a provider, not a partner. I had no regrets about leaving. One evening, as I was having dinner with friends, one of them looked at me and said, "You really got out just in time." I nodded. Lisa thought she had everything planned out. She thought she could push me into doing what she wanted. But I had made the right choice. I was free. A week passed, and the messages finally started to slow down. Lisa had stopped trying to contact me directly, but I heard from mutual friends that she was still telling everyone I had betrayed her. According to her, I had promised to be a father to Jake and then abandoned them both when it mattered most. She conveniently left out the part where she tried to force me into signing over my assets before the wedding. I let her talk. I did not care what she told people. The ones who mattered knew the truth. One day, I got a message from an old friend I had not spoken to in a while. He had heard about what happened and wanted to check in. As we caught up, he said something that stuck with me. "You're lucky," he said. "Some guys don't see the red flags until it's too late." He was right. I could have ignored the warning signs. I could have convinced myself that Lisa's demands were reasonable, that she was just looking out for her son. I could have signed the contract, gotten married, and spent years in a relationship where I was nothing more than a financial plan. But I didn't. I saw the truth before it was too late. I do not regret leaving Lisa at the altar. I do not regret walking away from that wedding, from the manipulation, from the life she tried to trap me in. Some people might say I was cruel for not telling her face to face. Some might say I should have handled it differently. But I know one thing for sure: if I had stayed, I would have spent my life being used. I am moving on, but part of me still wonders, how far would Lisa have gone if I had not refused to sign? Would she have kept pushing for more? Would she have ever stopped? I dodged a disaster, but I am curious. Has anyone else been in a situation like this? How did you handle it?